Okay, let's get started. So again, for those who just joined, my name is Jeff Besson. I'm what they call the platform evangelist for Intuiface. That means I get to speak about it quite a bit. I'm joined by Tom Lassiter of Intel. He's with the Visual Solutions team, the Internet of Things group with Intel. And I'm also joined by Sebastian Mounier, my colleague in Intuiface. He's the customer success manager. If any of you have used Intuiface, I think you know him very well. I'm going to run a single poll to start this off, which is, are you new to Intuiface? My anticipation is some of you are already customers and or you're already evaluating Intuiface. Some of you may have never seen it. So I want to kind of get some feedback from you guys. And I think we've had all our responses. Thank you for voting, everybody. Thank you very much. So we have almost a 50-50 there. So it's a nice split. I want to make sure you can see my screen again. Good. So thank you for joining us. The subject for today's webinar is the very recent announcement we've made about the delivery of face detection with OpenVINO. Now, some of you probably don't know OpenVINO, and some of you may not be familiar with the broad concept of computer vision. We're going to define all of those terms for you today. I'm going to kick off this webinar for you and then hand it over to Tom and Sebastian to dive into some of those details. My job is to give you an overview of the solution and then we'll hand it off. So let me do that. Back on April 15th, so tax day here in the United States, we launched our integration. We announced it. It's computer vision capabilities using the Intel distribution of the OpenVINO Toolkit. In particular, it was face detection. If you're familiar with OpenVINO, you'll be acquainted with the fact that it does many types of object detection things. It's not just about faces. We focus on the face detection piece. If I go a little deeper, what that means is real-time face detection, not a snapshot, real-time data stream of the people, the person in front of a camera. What OpenVINO is doing is not only helping us identify the people in front of the camera, but also to identify and then help us react to and collect information about their age range, about their gender, their head pose, their emotion, and their dwell time. We can, with some level of confidence, identify all of these things and react to it. So react, if you are an Intuiface user, react means triggering an action in response to one of this demographic criteria. If it's a 30-year-old female, if they look sad, these can be conditionals for triggers causing you to change content on screen or move content around the screen, that sort of thing. And then the collection piece is about analytics. So collecting information that gives you additional context about the events you care about. For example, you don't just know somebody touched the screen to select a particular video, but you know something about them. It's anonymous, but you know something about them. This new face detection feature, thanks to OpenVINO, can be achieved using any camera on any Windows PC. So no specific hardware is required, no specific make or model of Windows PC, just got to be any camera on a Windows PC. And it's totally free to use, 100% free to use. So anybody can try it out. You don't have to be a developer to use it, which is the basic message we like to preach. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you're doing it yourself. We hope it can be that easy. I want to play one short video for you, which is an illustration of using the OpenVINO integration, but maybe not in the way you would typically think of face detection. Again, I suspect normally you would think of reacting to the gender or the age or the emotion or the dwell time and changing the content in response. This is a kind of content change you may not have anticipated. So watch this.
Welcome to this Intuiface and OpenVINO demo. Choose a feature to experiment. Move your head into one of the circles. 3D object control. Turn your head left and right to look into the room.
Isn't that cool? So we're using head position, head pose in order to identify what the person's preference is, what it is they want to do with the content on screen. That is far more than worrying about just collecting data. It's really amazing what you can do with this integration, and Seb is going to show you how some of that was done. If you look at the infrastructure, sort of the high level look at how the pieces of Intuiface fit together, where does face detection fit? Well, in a way it fits in two places. Now, certainly if you look on the right of this diagram on your screen, it's part of the player deployment. Anybody familiar with Intuiface, you know, player, that's the runtime. And as I mentioned, it is a Windows-based feature for now. Seb will talk about ways that maybe you can work around that, but certainly for now, it's a Windows-based capability with Player. It is also, of course, about our facility for working at the edge, for interacting with sensors and actuators at the edge, the Internet of Things. OpenVINO is an example of that intelligence living on the edge, and we can integrate with that as well. So it's a nice combination of our general runtime and our ability to extend that runtime to communicate with sensors and actuators that is feeling out into the world. So that's my overview. What I'd like to do now is introduce you to Tom Lassiter of Intel. We've been talking about OpenVINO. What the heck is it? How does it work? Why is that what we used? So now I'm going to hand it over to you, Tom, to share your screen and to introduce folks to OpenVINO.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jeff, for the great introduction. So real quickly, I'm within Intel's Retail Banking, Hospitality, and Education division within IOTG. Specifically, my day job is on Hospitality Americas, which would be hotel, resorts, casinos. But specifically what we wanted to talk to is, you know, what is OpenVINO? You may not be familiar with it, and then give you some of the reasons why we're excited about the native integration of OpenVINO into the Intuiface solution set. You know, here's a high-level economic impact slide. As you all know, I'm sure you're quite familiar with it, but image recognition, speech recognition, AI-based recognition solutions, the accuracy rate and the usability of them is greatly accelerated. There are a lot of companies, Intel's one of many, that's doing a lot of research in this space to make sure that we come up with the most accurate, which means useful for us in a retail or hospitality type setting, solution. And then we're also looking to optimize those and make them straightforward for you to use in your deployments. So what are some of the challenges that we ran into? One is a gap in performance and accuracy. We've talked to that between trained and deployed models. The trained models, as an example, we're using our pre-trained OpenVINO models in the Intuiface native integration. So those are models that are provided with OpenVINO. They're not the only models that are available, and there may be cases where you would end up needing to train your own and create you know, much more customized solution. That's probably a little outside of what we're looking at here. So we're not trying to address every AI deployment with the native integration of OpenVINO and Intuiface. What we are looking to address straight on is the integration challenges for an end deployment. And that's what we'll look into. We also want to accelerate your time to market, your time to deployment, reduce your development efforts, right? And enable you to quickly take this into the market. And That's why we came up with OpenVINO. OpenVINO is a solution for highly optimized inferencing. We do have a decided focus, but we're not limited to computer vision type applications of it. But we wanted to come up with the most highly optimized solution that we could, and then streamline that deployment for you, and then enable you to deploy it across many solutions. And the Intuiface integration is a beautiful example of exactly how that works. In the retail, banking, hospitality, and education application space, you know, at the end of the day, it all comes down to the customer interaction, the value that we provide to the people who buy our solutions or contract us to develop the UIs. And so, you know, we wanted this to be easy to use, enable you to very quickly try things, take them into market, and then provide those advanced analytics that make our solutions, your solutions, more personalized, more responsive, and, you know, frankly, more relevant for the customer. Because the more we do that, the better experience we'll have. And here's our optimized OpenVINO deployment model. And, you know, this is very straightforward. But normally when you're using OpenVINO, it does require that you do coding to implement, right? There are many models available that we can incorporate into your OpenVINO deployment. And then we also provide many models, the models that Jeff's just, the capabilities for face detection, head movement. This is a very streamlined computer vision AI deployment model. Now, here's the beauty of native integration into Intuiface of OpenVINO. We basically bypass all this. And what you'll see when Seb goes through a demo is this is, you know, the Intuiface team has made using OpenVINO models, AI, adding it to your applications, literally a drop-down menu selection. You know, this is, you know, perhaps unprecedented. Don't know, but it's extremely fast. It's extremely easy for you to use, to test. And so we're excited about what we're going to see you doing with it, what you'll be able to take to your clients, and then, you know, the impact that will have on guests and customer experience. We're really excited about that. And then, you know, we're also looking forward to, you know, further enhancements on this over time, you know, based on market needs. I'm sure that's something to look at. And then I'll wrap up real quick with, you know, we support many models. There are many different solutions out there. So the many different models that we support with OpenVINO. And as you get into your solution set, if you do need to look at more sophisticated AI models, you know, you may want to take a look at OpenVINO and the other models available. And so, Jeff, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'll pass back to you if that works.
Thank you very much, Tom, for that overview. I'm now going to switch the presenter over to Sebastian Meunier, Intuiface's Customer Success Manager. He's going to do a nice deep dive into how this all works with Intuiface. Seb.
Thank you, Jeff. So hi, everybody. I'm going to start once, not directly with a demo within Composer, but I will go first through some of our resources that we put online to help you in this journey of playing, running, working with OpenVINO within Intuiface. And this will start in the Help Center article. All right, this will be your best friend and the main resource that I encourage you to go and have a look at. It's a pretty long article, so I'm not going to drive you through everything here, but just the most important things in this article. Very first thing in the introduction, you do have two big links. This one, the source code. This is open source, so it's free and open source, and I will come back to that. So face detection server and the interface asset, these are the two parts of the architecture I'm going to present, are available on GitHub for free. Second link, the OpenVINO sample experience in the marketplace. Just showing you this one very quickly. If you remember the video that Jeff showed earlier, you can try that at home. If you have a Windows machine with Composer player, just download the server, download this sample, hit play, you're good to go, nothing else. Going down a bit, you have all the steps to run this particular sample. Again, some more complete videos about how it works. Some hardware prerequisites. We've been mentioning that, and the architecture I will present right below here is today a Windows-based architecture running both the server side on the Windows machine and the client side, the interface set on Windows machines, same machines or different machines, with Intel chips, CPU or GPU. You'll find here the references of the machine we've been using for our tests. And just so you know, right now, I am running on this Intel NUC. This is the machine I'm using right now for this webinar. Let's talk about the architecture. As I said, we have two pieces here, the face detection server and the face detection interface asset. For those who are not familiar with Intuiface, seems to be half of the audience today, this will be like the plugin to Intuiface, but will make the connection to this face detection server. So how does it work? Again, we wanted this to be an open platform, an open framework, and to provide you with the most flexibility, which is one of the main things we like to do in Intuiface. And today I'm going to run on this scenario, one single device, Windows/Intel device, Intel CPU and or GPU. And the server will be the one connected to the webcam and tracking the information, getting the information. Then through WebSockets, in this case on the local host, we don't have any network involved, we have one single machine. The information, the detected information will be sent to the interface set, to the interface plugin, which will make this information available in Composer for you to create using this information. A quick view on the other architectures possible. Two machines. If you need a bigger workload and you want to separate the computer vision stuff on one Intel machine, first on the server side, and then have maybe a lower end device running the experience, or on the opposite, you have a huge machine for a big video wall and you want to separate these processes just for performance purpose, this architecture is also possible as well. And because we like to make things even bigger than that, yeah, you can be crazy here. You can go with Intel specific edge devices, like to run one big edge machine on the back end of the store connected to multiple cameras and then spreading the feed to the different kiosks you would have in the store. Be creative here. All right, so again, all of this can be used without coding, and this is the demo I'm going to do in a minute. I want just to say a few words for those of you here today who wants to code, who wants to make things even better than what we provided. Because this is an open platform and because everything here is open source, on GitHub, you can access both the server side, which is written in C++, and the interface set, which is written in .NET. So now, why would you want to do that? If you want to change the models, like Tom said, today in this distribution, we are proposing some models, which are models distributed by Intel, which are pre-trained models. If you want to train your own models, if you want to change the models, maybe you want to modify this server code to adapt it to your specific use case. Maybe you want to recognize objects instead of faces or bodies, license plates. This is a framework, an architecture. And then again, on the receiving side, the interface set, you can change the code as well. Now, for those who do not want to do that, regular interface Composer users, among the releases, you have the face detection server here. Just download that, unzip it, you have the server ready to go. Then we can jump on the Composer side. If you have any question about these technical things about what we can do in the code, let's keep that for the Q&A session at the end. I'd be happy to answer all of them.
However, just to Seb, if I may, please feel free to use that questions panel right now if you do have questions. We can always shelve it to the end if necessary.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. Okay, back, actually, right before Composer. So that's my folder with the server here, and everything is explained in the Help Center article, right? The server is here. We have some different scripts ready for you to run it in the proper way, depending if you want to run on the CPU, on the GPU, if you want to show the output or not. Right now, I am running this one here, which is this. So again, you may see my face first. I have two webcams here. This one here, that's running on OpenVINO. This one here, I'm using it for GoToWebinar just so you can't miss me. On this frame here, the face detection server running OpenVINO is tracking my face and detecting some features, gender, age, emotions. We're going to go back to that. So this is running. I'm using the window here just to show you in the production environment, just run the no-show option so you get more performance and you don't need this frame. It's kind of helpful if you want to set up the camera properly in your environment as well. All right, in Composer, add an interface set. In the latest versions of Composer, this is directly available here. Face detection. Let's add this to my experience. And as usual, you can just drag and drop this. You get a default design accelerator, a default template, which will somehow explain a bit how it works and enable you to test it. Just for the demo here, I'm going to reduce the frequency. Quick word about the properties here. I'm running on a local server because I'm running on everything on one single machine. Earlier today, I was doing another call where I switched back to my laptop. So I had the NUC running the server and my laptop getting the information from the NUC on my local network, meaning my home Wi-Fi. All right, let's just hit play. Actually, we don't need to do anything else. So I'm going to connect to the server and just put back this window so you see the relation. So if I move to the right, you can see the circle is tracking me on the interface side. We get the age here. We have the main emotion. I'll come back to that. If I try to change my main emotion and be angry, I get anger. Can I do happy? Yes, I can. All right. And then you have the X, Y, and width and height if I come closer to the camera or not. All right. So now what can we do with that? Because this is not the best graphic design, but it gives us an idea about the common concepts in interface, the properties, triggers, and actions. For those who are not familiar with interface, when you click on this button, you open the X-ray panel, and you have the properties, triggers, and actions summary of this particular interface set. All right, let's create something. So I'm going to add first a little background to make things a little bit less gray here. Let's add a scene background. I will move no, not here. I want a foreground experience layer and I want just this so it stays with me when I'm going to navigate across the different scenes. It would be easier to follow. And then again, we're not doing graphic design today. Let's say this is my attract screen. So the video loop which is running when no one is using the kiosk, for example, or the museum experience, whatever. All right, so we have one scene which I'm going to rename attract. I will create a second scene, which will be my my home scene. And in the home scene, oops, let me move that here. This one is the home actually, and I want my text to be the attract here. No, thank you. Attract. Okay. So if we have no one in front of the screen, we want to be in this scene where maybe we have some rotating content, a video loop. And then when we are going to detect someone, so if I look at the triggers on the face detection, when I detect someone, a face, when I lose a face, or when the count changes, I can trigger something. I can call an action in interface. This is how you will program the events to happen, depending on the information provided by the face detection server. In this case, I could have 1, 2, maybe 3 people coming. So I'm going to rely on the face count change, and I'm going to add a condition on this trigger. With my trigger comes the count. All right. So we want when the face count has changed, and if it is greater than or equal to 1, meaning we have at least one person, then I want to navigate to the home scene with a crossfade transition done. I'm going to duplicate this action to make the reverse, the opposite. When this count is now back to 0, I want to navigate back to my attract screen. All right, let's test this quickly. So obviously I am in front of the camera right now, but if I connect, I'll go to the home. So let me show with this as a feedback for you. If I get out of the camera, it goes back to the attract automatically. If I come back, it goes to the home. Now, when you want to do these kind of tests, you might want to use another image which I didn't prepare on my phone. But anyway, if you need to test with multiple people, just use your phone, put it in front of the camera. That's a perfect buddy for your tests. So that's about the triggers: face detected, face lost, face count changed. Pretty straightforward. Now let's create things a bit nicer. Let's look at the properties which we have available. And I'm going to reduce something a bit like in the video. We had the 3D object, the Van Gogh room. Now let's take a museum example. Right. Let's say I have this dinosaur and I want the dinosaur to move depending on where I'm looking at, the way I move my face in front of it. So I will use the binding on that. On my source, I will go to the face detection. And here are the properties I have available. So the 4 first properties are the settings, let's say. And then you have the face count, number of faces detected at that time. We have the list of faces, meaning all the faces visible at that moment by the webcam, by OpenVINO, with some attributes: X, Y, width, height, gender, age range, which are some categories, predefined categories, dwell time, how long this person has been in front of the screen, face size, meaning the multiplication of width per height, and the emotions and the head pose. Right now, this is what I'm going to use. So if I need to remember this every time I'm doing that. The yaw is this movement, the pitch is this. So I want to use the yaw on the Y, yes, on the Y, and the pitch on the X. This will help me to move my object. And because I want to make sure that it moves the same way my face is moving, I just need to reverse the axis by converting this with a little -1. Basic math things here on the angles that the face does towards the camera thing. So basically 2 bindings. Now, what happens if I hit play? If I hit play right now, well, nothing happens. But if I connect, and if I show you my feedback again, all right, if I look to the right, look to the left, up and down. So the lights are not the best, right? I don't have any lights in front of me actually right now, and it's 9 p.m. But so that's why it might be a little bit shaky. But that's the idea, and that's how fast you can have something interacting with your face in just 2 clicks, a couple of clicks. Based on that, based on all these properties, you can build a lot of things. And this is where I really encourage you to go on our marketplace, download our sample, in which you will use the head pose to control the 3D object, the 3D room. You will use the face X position to make a selection, to navigate in an experience without touching the screen, which these days is something that people are asking for, especially. You can also answer a question. Do you like this? Yes or no? Just put your face in the right box. That's a way of interacting with the screen, which is pretty new and pretty cool. That's the X-axis. I don't want to spoil that, but if you do run the sample, we will use the Y-axis to make you do some fitness at home. Let's do some squats and count the squats based on some thresholds. If you go below and up, that's a +1. You need to do 10 to win the game. These are pretty cool and really fast to create within Composer with the properties. Now, one of the last things I want to talk about before going into the Q&A session is about analytics. right? And let's say that we have this dinosaur in a museum experience, and we want to ask the people, hey, did you like this? So yes, I like it. And I want to track some information information about who liked it. Now I could say, just going to add the data tracking here. When this button is clicked, I'm going to log an event on my data tracking. So nothing new here, log an event. I'm going to call this the like clicked. And then I can add as many parameters as I want, remember that. What about putting some information about the user that is in front of the kiosk, that is in front of the experience right now? So I can log his age, again using a binding, and retrieving from my properties and from my faces, and in particular this time the main face, which is the one being in front of the screen right now, the closest one, or let's say the biggest face, which is, we decided to put this to make it even easier to decide who is controlling the experience and to avoid a mess when you have multiple people in front of the screen. So I want to log the age in here, just click here, that's it. I can add a new parameter, let's go with the gender, and bind this on gender, done. Each time I will click on that, it will send information to the Analytics Hub, and then you can create nice charts to learn about the demographics of your audience in a museum or in a retail store. Who liked this shirt? Who liked these trousers? So lots and lots of things, lots of scenarios. I know I'm already over time, but before going to the questions, there's one last thing I want to talk about, and I didn't open the page yet. It's on the community, the Interface community. In our announcements, we did announce the face detection with OpenVINO. That's a thread which gives all the links I've been talking about today, and gives the opportunity to discuss this, to discuss what's your ideas, and I think Ryan, you're here with us today. What do you want to try to do with that? What are your tests? What is your feedback? It's an open community. It's an open source framework. So let's make it great, and let's find things we never thought about doing with Intuiface. Jeff, I think that's it for me. I covered all the points from the demo standpoint, and I'm seeing the questions button blinking a lot. So I will let you drive.
Tom and I have been answering on the fly. I've been answering busy enough that I didn't catch everything. To what extent did you discuss analytics, the analytics piece?
I showed, actually, that's a good point. So let me go back in play mode. And let me remove my questions banner here. Let me show I connect. So I am a male in my 30s. Thank you, OpenVINO, you're pretty nice to me. I'm liking once, liking twice, liking 3 times, and hitting escape. So this is going to take up to 30 seconds a minute to go to the server. But in the meantime, I can already connect to my account. And I should have my morning session data there. So just log in here. Analytics dashboard. Double security for the administrators. And then in my first dashboard, I actually did the chart this morning. I don't think I deleted it. So let's see what we have. I am running quite a few experiences on my accounts. Yeah, I know I'm using Edge. All right. Yeah, I do have some charts here. I'm just going to build a brand new one so we all know exactly what we're talking about and what we're looking at. So I'm going to create a new chart from scratch. And I will look at some events. And we said like clicked. I think that was the name I used. So let's have a look when my events are all ready. They are? Yes, they are. So these are my events, and I want to use the like clicked. All right. So if I just drag this here, it looks like I had 6 today. Okay, good. Let me do a pie chart of that. And if I now go to my parameters, I should have the gender somewhere. Gender, there we go. Hopefully this is going to say male. Yeah, thank you. I didn't change my gender during the day. So that was me. All right, let me switch this to age instead. So 27, 28, 32, 36, these are the different ages, which are all pretty close, around 30, depending on the light, depending on quite a few things. When I clicked myself this button today, right? Obviously, on a larger number of events, this accuracy is way better, and that's the kind of chart you can very easily build to merge together this demographic information with all the other KPIs you can retrieve from the experience itself, like the button click, like the data which was clicked, which product, what's the average price of the products clicked by male versus females. All these KPIs can now be built into this dashboard, which then can be shared to marketing managers, to the business owner, etc.
Thanks, Seb. Yeah, certainly for those who know Intuiface, you know the analytics capability is not specific to face detection. It's a feature we've offered for quite some time. But demographic information is a significant contextual bit of information to help you better understand your audience and who's using what and when they use it. So it's a really nice way to slice and dice. And the analytics feature, it's pretty powerful. I'm not sure how many of you have seen it, but you're building your own charts, you're publishing your own dashboards. You can have data coming from multiple experiences from any number of players. It's pretty amazing how easily you can data mine and identify some trends. So that's pretty cool. How old is Sebastian? That's funny. So it estimated you to be between late 20s to mid 30s.
which let me see again what it said here. I'm definitely in the range. I will not say more. 27 is kind of nice, right? That's pretty nice. I'm in my early, soon to be mid 30s.
Early to mid.
Early to mid, but pretty close to mid.
That's a funny
Early to late. Yeah. Sorry, guys, I'm getting punchy. It's later.
You know, there was a question asked, Seb. I don't know if you know it either, or Tom for that matter, which is there's a couple of questions about the RealSense camera. You know, it does its own level of processing as well. First of all, if I use RealSense, I guess I have to shut off its own processing, that the face detection server needs raw, untouched data, or can they both do their thing at the same time? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so the RealSense camera will provide it's looking to provide you with depth information, but simultaneously, it also can provide you a raw feed. So it's straight, you know, HD H.264 stream on that. You know, think of it as a standard RGB color stream. Yeah, you can use OpenVINO and
can it do it at the same? Tom, can it do the generate depth information and provide the raw feed at the same time? Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Think of that depth information as metadata, right? You know, so it's separate from, you know, a standard like webcam image, like what we've got.
An additional channel to process, but just to be clear, so we avoid false expectations here. Right now, in the OpenVINO integration we work with regular color images from regular cameras. Mm-hmm. There is no support of the RealSense camera as of today. But if you want to build this on integration, for sure you can, and probably you can plug the 2D image of the RealSense camera to this OpenVINO process. I'm pretty sure that is doable as well.
That's not an Intuiface thing. That's a RealSense thing, you're saying.
Yeah. And by the way, I don't have any RealSense camera with me, so I can't really test, right? Just saying, Tom.
But, you know, there was the general question asked, of course, about, well, is there a recommended camera? Is there such a thing as a bad camera? And
there is something I can say. I can speak about this. Is right now the camera I'm using for this feed here, this one, that's a Logitech C920, which is a pretty popular model of the webcams since what, 2-3 years maybe. and it's an HD feed, reliable, used in lots of areas. It does a good job. Now, in a real productized environment, would you use that on top of your kiosk? Maybe not. It's still a consumer grade product. Would you have something embedded in the kiosk made by the system integrator, by the kiosk manufacturer? Probably. In the end, it's a webcam seen by Windows, period.
Do you know?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Tom, please.
well, I was going to say, utilizing OpenVINO, not specifically with Intuiface, but with OpenVINO, we have embedded cameras. So, they may be, 720p or 480, depending on the application, right? If you're going to embed a camera into a device, like a kiosk or a sign, you may try to cost optimize things. But then, we go all the way up to the, the Logitech 920. That's what I've got at the office, right? So it's popular. It's a good camera. A lot of people use it. And then we go all the way up to 4K, and, OpenVINO is used in some of the video analytics capable digital security and surveillance cameras in an embedded scenario, right? So, and then we also, we actually probably do the bulk of our OpenVINO business, if you will, in high density deployments for security and surveillance, where you may be taking feeds from hundreds of cameras into a bank of servers that are all running, many inferencing models against each of the streams. So hope that helps. Yeah, it's very flexible. Really, all you need access to on OpenVINO is a stream, and you can pull that stream across. There was a question about latency across the network. That's really dependent on the network and the transmission characteristics. The beautiful thing in interactive device type applications that's great about OpenVINO is that it's highly optimized, and you can run it directly on the CPU or GPU on the device. And so you eliminate any latency concerns. Yeah.
But in fact, Tom, let's be clear. In fact, the recommendation is to run it on an Intel CPU, GPU, not to run it on a third-party GPU. It's optimized for Intel.
Well, we haven't optimized it. I don't know if it runs on anybody else's GPU.
I can tell. I can tell because I did it, and I wrote in the Help Center article, don't do it.
Okay.
Just to give an idea, to put figures here, right now this is running at 10 FPS, knowing I have OpenVINO plus Composer plus GoToWebinar plus the webcam, etc. If you have just OpenVINO running on this NUC, I think I get around between 15 and 25 frames per second easily. If I use it on my laptop with a dedicated GPU, non-Intel GPU, I drop to 2 FPS. So no, don't do it.
Very big difference.
Yes. You may have seen I was preparing something in the background for the next question. There was something about RealSense which was asked, and I want to give an idea. So the question was understood regarding RealSense. It's all about eventually being able to move forward and backward, as well as left, right, up, and down. So yes, RealSense will give you an accurate notion of depth with the third axis. That's true. But still, with this, let me clear my window here and put back this. With the notion of face size, right, which we are using here, as soon as I go away from the webcam, the size of my face physically is reduced in the global picture of the image. And if you can see the gauge on the right-hand side, this is the face size. We are working today on a sample which we plan to release next week. The chair doesn't want to roll. Which will use this to define zones and segments, a long range, a medium range, a short range, based on this face size info and some thresholds. So you can definitely detect someone in the background. If he comes closer and crosses the first threshold, then hey, welcome, come closer and interact with me being the kiosk. could even have some text-to-speech to call the user to come to the kiosk. And then short range, okay, now you can interact with me using touch, using voice, using what we call a QR code and mobile phone to control your kiosk, but that's news for next week. Combining all of this with OpenVINO to use this face detection as a distance sensor somehow.
You know, we got a couple questions about this topic this morning. There was one touching on it as well, which is about hand detection. Are there, and I explained, you know, that would be a different model, and we certainly don't support it. I don't even know that one exists. Does one even exist for OpenVINO? Do either of you know?
Yeah, so, you know, gesture recognition, it's a dynamic. And now we support recursive models, which basically give you a dynamic detection. But something like gesture recognition, it's actually really tough to do well. You know, and frankly, one of the best ways to do it would be with a RealSense camera to where you can get depth so that, you know, you can determine as I move my hand across the screen, you know the Z, you get that Z axis, and so you know face versus hand, you know, you can detect the fingers. Gesture actually is a pretty tough one, unless you're doing a real simple.
I'd said that as well. We have a history with things like Leap Motion. Connect actually did some sort of gross as well, and they never worked really well. You had to be very specific with the fist and with the point, and it just
controlled environment. Yeah.
There were so many factors. So look, maybe you're brilliant and you can make it work, you know, but it's in our experience. But Seb, just broadly speaking, you might have touched on it, but just again, in theory, you could, with development skills, add additional models to the OpenVINO server and build an interface asset that works with it, right? I mean, you can.
And publish it on GitHub with and help the open source community and all of us. Yes, please do. Actually, two things on that. I had a call with Tom's colleagues, technical colleagues at 1 today, and I asked them this question. They are pretty embarrassed by the question because, we all agree, it is a tough subject. So they will look into it. I know the OpenVINO team has some ideas, there are some papers. We dig into some research papers also today. Nothing for next week. Right? Let's be clear on that. And on the other hand, I'm looking a lot at the VR world, right, and the VR headsets. And if you look at the latest releases from Oculus, they do some hand tracking with the latest Oculus Rift or Quest, never remember. But they're not using one camera; they're using 2 or 4 cameras. So it's a whole different setup, different usages, and again, the VR headset that works well in your living room. So control environment. I see another question from our dear friend Paolo, seeing interesting scenarios of OpenVINO plus Nexmosphere. So again, spoiler alert, in next week's news sample, there will be a mix between OpenVINO and Nexmosphere LED light strips, yes, to help you put in a clear vision on a shelf what product you should pick based on what choice you made on the kiosk. That's a very good point. For those who are not familiar with Nexmosphere, there are sensors and actuators manufacturers with which we announced a partnership a couple of months ago, I guess. And
December was when we first announced it in December.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, this is a great ecosystem. And actually, fun fact, when I worked with the Intel tech team in a hackathon, I brought my Nexmosphere demo board with them, and we built a joint scenario with OpenVINO doing some object detection. So that was not this integration, these were different models, guys doing things on Linux, sending triggers to interface through network, and then using the Nexmosphere RFID sensors to combine all of this information. That was a pretty cool demo made in half a day. And among the team, I wrote 0 line of code. That's the beauty of Composer.
Well, one interesting thing about the face detection work with OpenVINO, though, is usually something is either a sensor where the person in front of the screen is not doing anything explicitly, like touching a screen, or it's an explicit interaction, right? So you're not accidentally touching a screen. You can, usually it's intentional, but I'm not intentionally moving in front of a motion detector. I just am. What's interesting about the face detection feature is it's both. It can be used passively to get age, gender, emotion, where the person in front of the screen has no idea. Or it could be for explicitly maneuvering things on the screen. So it's that rare instance of enabling you to explicitly do things as well as implicitly with the same sensor, which is kind of interesting. So both from an accessibility perspective, people that can't touch the screen, for example, and in light of this current pandemic where people are going to be very hesitant about touching things, face detection could be a way to solve quite a few issues. And if you're working with sensors to detect when people are close, or have an RFID reader so they can swipe a badge over a reader, you can reduce the amount of physical touches, but still make it very engaging and very interactive. You do both.
I think we've been through the list of questions. Did we?
Oh, we're certainly through them, yes. So I've got nowhere to go. It's 10 o'clock at night. So I'm fine sticking around.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, it's only 7 o'clock here, so I think I'll sign off. Hey, thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for all of you for being here till the end of this webinar in the Q&A session. Again, if you have any additional question, Interface support team is here. The community thread is a great resource. Feel free to come there and register to the community if you're not. And then talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night or a great day, depending on where you are. Take care.